So welcome to the PPPP podcast. I started this podcast really just for fun, and I call it the PPPP podcast because of four categories of things that I'm interested in: politics, philosophy, poker, and Persians. And I've been very fortunate in my life. I've got to meet a lot of just really incredible people in my life, and I wanted to just kind of full circle back to a good friend of mine from high school. When I was a brand new kid from California, moved here in the middle of my senior year in high school in Plano, Texas. I had the fortune of going to high school with Sachin Latti and I'm saying it right, Latti, right?
Yeah, man.
And he's just such an incredible person, and I just think I need to tell the world about all the things he's been doing and what an incredible human being and what a tough human being he is. So with further ado, Sachin, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, man. First of all, thanks for the introduction. I don't know if I'm that tough, but I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I'm such. I'm Canadian. I live in Canada. I did go to high school in Texas, and I love Texas. I love Plano. And I moved back to Canada after high school. Went on a bit of a tangent. I was lost for a number of years. I didn't really have much of a purpose up until about 6, 7 years ago. I worked in law enforcement, officially retired earlier this year after 20 years, but over the last 5 or 6 years, I've been really focused on raising awareness and funds for mental health for various different communities. When I first started, it was for veterans and first responders, because I'm a veteran and a first responder, retired both, but I struggled with my mental health significantly around 2019, 2020. Uh, you know, a lot of people probably can relate to some of the issues. It was during the pandemic up in Canada. It was really locked down, and I was going through a divorce, and then 20 years in law enforcement, all of these things. I ended up having a major depressive episode, struggling significantly with my mental health, suicidal ideation, all that kind of stuff. And fortunately for me, I tried to find a way to get myself out of it, and I did that by serving the community and by serving the community through running. So I started running a ton, and over the last 5 or 6 years, I've done these various different challenges, which culminated to me being the first South Asian to run across Canada. Ran over 70 ultra marathons across the country from coast to coast, and raising over $216,000 for mental health that support veterans and first responders and various other communities. So that's me in a nutshell, and happy to be here and happy to see you, man.
Sachin, it's always great to talk to you. I was fortunate because I have cousins in Vancouver over the years. I always, try to keep in touch and see each other, even though, God, we met 31 years ago. I
I
mean,
know, isn't that
I
crazy,
was
man?
like 16, 17, and I was this lost kid that moved to Plano
Oh,
from
man.
California. I went to high school that had graduating class of 350 to Plano that had a graduating class, if I remember the number correctly, 1,692. It was the
Yeah.
largest graduating class in the state of Texas and the second largest graduating class in the United States. And I got thrown into this essentially college campus in the middle of high school, moving in the middle of my senior year. And Sachin was one of the very few people that I became friends with. Our common friend was actually a gentleman named Ali Eskandarian, my best friend growing up. And actually, my dad and his dad served in the Air Force together. My dad was selected to be a F-14 pilot. His father was selected to be a F-14 pilot in the Iranian Air Force. His father ended up actually becoming a C-130 navigator. My father ended up going into logistics. And we moved to Texas because of them. They said, "Hey, move to Texas. Our business opportunities are great." This is back in '95, and in LA we had the fires and the riots,
Mhm.
and all these different things, earthquake, all that stuff. We just tired of California, so we moved here. And I remember the first day of school. I was in the locker, and I saw Ali was on the wrestling team, and I met you and Adrian, and you guys were in the locker room, and I came, in the locker room pretending like I was a wrestler, hung out with you guys, and we've been friends now 31 years. And unfortunately, our good friend Ali perished. He was
Yeah.
unfortunately murdered by somebody actually with mental health issues in New York. Where assault rifles are very illegal, but someone went and got one and unfortunately murdered him in 2013. But that only made us closer friends. And Sachin, I think it's important for me to kind of dig into this. I could never run a marathon. I'm more fast twitch muscles, and I can run fast, but I can't do endurance sports. I did a 40 kilometer New York, bike ride, and I remember
Yeah.
it gave me a lot of inspiration. That was probably the most endurance thing that I've done. But for people that don't understand, like, just explain how hard it is to run a marathon, and then that's what 27 miles, right?
I think it's 26.2 miles.
26.2 miles, and then talk about ultra marathons and just what just I mean, it's like you watch the movie Forrest Gump. This is a guy that actually did. Forrest Gump was fictional. This is a guy that actually did what Forrest Gump in a fictional movie tried to do, and just I mean, like, people can't fathom running 100 kilometers and then doing that, what, 60, 70 days in a row. Talk about that, please, and the experience, and just the toll that it takes on your body and what all that means.
Yeah, man. I think look, running an ultra marathon is hard, right? Like anything else that you're gonna do. Um, and it requires a lot of time and effort to train and prepare and things of that nature. But it's interesting, right? Like, because I don't look at myself as um, a runner. I really don't think of myself as a runner or an ultra marathoner or anything like that. I did it because I had a mission or a job to do. And so for me, if someone asks me, "Are you a runner? Are you an ultra marathoner?" I tell them no. And they inevitably laugh at me. It's like, bro, you just ran around across the country. What are you talking about? But it's true, man. Because I'll answer your question, but I want to speak to this a bit because I think it's kind of important, at least for me, and the story that I share. I went down a path of chasing adversity, not really understanding why I was doing it. And eventually it became clearer and clearer to me. Because at the time I was struggling significantly and I felt like, my life was falling apart financially, emotionally, everything. Like I didn't have, my friends of many, many years in law enforcement really, they stopped kind of communicating with me. So I was really alone and isolated, right? And I was angry. I was pissed off. And that was part of what fueled the drive to do something. Because I was starting all over, man. I got divorced and it was like starting fresh again. It was like, man, what do I do? How do I do this? I'm a loser. Like I was thinking really negative thoughts, man. And then I just, I wanted to find a way to be inspired. I wanted to find a way to have some purpose. And for me, I didn't have that purpose. And we were talking before we jumped on here about Jordan Peterson and having a meaning, having a purpose, having a drive, and where does that come from? Look, I definitely watched a lot of his lectures about 6, 7 years ago and read his book, and a lot of what he was saying is kind of what I started applying in my own life, right? And creating a sense of purpose in myself, creating a sense of direction and a path. And so how that all started was I was struggling so much with my mental health. I needed to do something or I wouldn't be here today. I honestly, I don't think I would be. And so I started running. And I started running because I live in Canada in the pandemic. I couldn't, like, I'm normally, I train jujitsu and I go to the gym. And during the pandemic, those were limited. I couldn't go. And so now, for me, the only coping mechanisms I had at the time was either hit the gym or go have a drink. And I knew the way I was feeling at the time, not a good idea to have a drink. So I started exploring other things. And eventually, I picked up David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. And I read the first two chapters and I put the book down. I was like, okay, cool, I know what to do. And I started running. And listen, man, if you should know because everyone talked about it on the high school team, man. I was the worst runner freaking on the wrestling team, man. I was the worst, and I hated it. And so for me, when I was reading David Goggins' book, eh, the through line is chase adversity, do what you don't want to do what you don't like, that kind of idea. And I was like, shit, man, I don't like running. Okay, let's give that a shot. And so for me, I was a bodybuilder kind of physique. I'm sitting around 215, pretty decent size and not really the typical running physique. And I started running small amounts, 3 miles, 3 times a week, maybe really slow, just trying to get it done. And so you were mentioning you're not a long distance runner, man. I wasn't either, right? I absolutely wasn't. But I stuck to it. And over a period of 7, 8, 9 months, I started seeing how it was actually helping me from a mental health perspective. Because if you can understand when someone like the way I was back then, I was really dysregulated with my emotions. I'd either cry at the drop of a hat or get really pissed off, like just on a drop of a dime. And so the running was helping me regulate that. And so I thought, man, it's helping me a bit. Maybe I can leverage what I'm doing to help other people. And that's what really started everything. Started really pushing the envelope. Within a year, I ran my first 100 kilometers, and I wasn't a racer. I hadn't even done a 5K race in my life. I had zero desire to do a fucking race. None. Zero. But I thought to myself, maybe I can run 100 kilometers from a town called Chilliwack to the Vancouver airport, and I could raise some money for veterans and first responders with PTSD. And that's what I did. I ended up running those 100 kilometers in under 15 hours and raised 21,000 to support veterans and first responders with PTSD in one day. And I thought, man, that felt good. Let's do some more. And essentially, what I did over the next 5 years was do these training blocks every summer and expanded each thing that I did to encompass more. And what started organically happening, because running 100K and then the following year running 9 ultras in 9 months, and the year after that running 22 consecutive marathons across the province, and then the year after that running 60K a day for 2 months. All of those things I did all by myself, all just on social media with limited support, raising about $80,000 to support veterans and first responders. And what I learned from all of that was a ton, man. I started getting people contacting me for podcast interviews, getting national media attention, news articles. Like so much media was created out of just me finding a little bit of purpose. And I think, I appreciate the question about the challenging and how hard it is to run. But to me, honestly, that's not even the story. The story really is one person who's so in the hurt locker, what they did to help themselves and then help other people. That for me is more of the story.
It's when you're in an airplane and they tell you to grab the oxygen mask. You say, first you got to help yourself, and then you got to help the person next to you. If you try to help the person next to you, you both are going to pass out. So this is what you just said is so incredible. You're not going to be able to help other people until you learn how to help yourself. But the same way when they say, if you are a teacher, you learn the subject better as a teacher. When you also learn how to help yourself, you start helping others. You're also helping yourself because now you're getting better at the process of helping yourself, right?
100%.
I mean, it's just it's. I mean, I want people to fathom what it means. Like 27.2 kilometer miles is a marathon. Ultra marathon is 100 kilometers, right?
Yeah. So I want to give,
How many miles is that?
well, yeah, I want to give a bit of clarity on that too, right? Because I think it's important to actually give this context and this clarity because I think it is actually more meaningful than the 100 kilometers. Well, in 100 kilometers, I think it's like 60 somewhat, 67 miles or 70 miles or something like that.
Every
Um,
day for 60 days?
so yeah, this is where I want to give a bit more clarity. So when I started my run across Canada, I started on Father's Day, June 16th, 2025. And the goal was to run 100 kilometers across the country, right? From Victoria, British Columbia to St. John's, Newfoundland. That would be 7,500 kilometers in 75 days, was what I was training for and what I had planned for and what I was going to do. And now, so the first few days, we're hammering, we're getting after it, and we're going, doing the thing. And so I had a team with me, I had RV. Like we put a team together that was pretty good, man. And the RV was deckled out. It was professionally wrapped. It had mental health on it, and it looked like a beacon when people saw it. Right? It was like a sign, come here. And what I didn't consider in planning everything that I had planned, that people would want to stop and have conversations. I never freaking thought of that, man. Like I did not think of that. I thought, okay, I'll just go run and I'll do the thing. What I started noticing on day one, we were getting stopped constantly to have conversations because people were seeing the sign that said mental health and they were like, well, what's this about? Oh, I have this issue. Can we share what we're like? We had to end up holding space for people to have conversations. And if anyone knows anything about running or ultras, and if you're trying to do 100K, stopping every few minutes or every 15 minutes or every hour to have conversations is really, really challenging. It's really
Your
hard.
momentum messes up your rhythm. You're,
Right.
you're
So now within the first, yeah, exactly. And within the first week, I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision. Okay, man, do we do what I said I was going to do and what I planned to do and keep hammering? Or do we service people or myself? Which one is the priority? And so we decided as a team, well, effectively, I decided, okay, we're going to service people, not my ego. And so what ended up happening was I wanted to not, it didn't feel right to me if people were coming and me saying, hey, I got to keep running, go talk to somebody else. It didn't feel right. And so we changed everything within the first week. We pivoted the entire mission, goal, messaging, website, everything. We said, we're not going to run past people, we're going to run to them. And we're going to hold space for people. If they want to have a conversation, I'm going to sit and talk for however long they want to talk. And then when they're done, I'm going to keep running. So what to logistically make that work, we still did an ultra every day. But what we did is we reduced the kilometer distance. So we kept at least 50 kilometers a day, so between 50 and 60K a day. But now we're going to run to people, stay in cities, run and do more community engagement. So with that model, initially when I decided that I was not happy because I had planned something for 5 years and I trained for it. But eventually it was the right thing to do, and I'll tell you why. We ended up having over 5,000 individual conversations with people across the country. Went into 55 different cities to hold space and have conversations and to get a real understanding of the mental health crisis that's actually affecting people in Canada and really around the world. It's all the same. And I I'm extremely pleased and happy that we made that pivot. Now, having said that, still ran an ultra across the country. We did it in a way that has never been done before in the entire country of Canada. And by doing so, we were able to raise significant amount of money by engaging with these different people. And I did end up having 9 rest days, but when we did those 9 rest days, we would also use those days to do media outreach, interviews, podcasts. So the goal wasn't the run, the goal was to create awareness
very much so.
and using the run as a vessel or a tool to do it.
Listen, I totally understand. I just ran for Congress, and the goal, as someone that's never ran for political office, the goal was to raise awareness and focus on some of the things that I think are important for this, for community here in Texas and Dallas, locally in Plano. They say in boxing, I think for every minute that you're in the ring, you need to have like 1,000 minutes of preparation. I know you trained 5 years for this. I mean, this is. I mean, I don't think people can grasp how crazy and how Herculean this is. What they say, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? I mean, this
Yeah.
has to be the example of one bite at a time. But I'd love to get in. Like, there's been so many times I've been a coward and I quit. And we both grew up Dallas Cowboys fans. So
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson used to say, if you're in shape, it's less likely you're going to be a coward. You know when you become a coward when you're out of shape. So if you're out of shape, you're going to be a coward. That's just the way it is, right? So I mean, I've done some tough things in my life, nowhere near physically what you've done, not even close, not even the same ballpark. But just help us explain. And I've read David Goggins' book, and he says when you think you're done and you have zero gas left, you usually have 40% more. So that's inspiring. But you've inspired me. You inspired a lot of other people. Talk to me about the mental toughness and the mental process, and you battling yourself in your mind. What am I doing? Well, what? I got another 99 kilometers I got to do today, and then tomorrow I got to do. How do you overcome that? How do you take it one step at a time so there's no quit in you?
So I think that's great. That's a great question, man. And I think a lot of it has to come down. I think there's an individual sort of perspective on how to manage and tackle those types of things. And but let's say 5 years ago, if I wanted to do this thing of running across the country, I wouldn't have been capable of doing it. I didn't have the skills, I didn't have the physique, I didn't have the understanding, I didn't have the mindset. So I had to go down a path, man. I had to go down a 5 year journey of exploration, not only physical, but mental. I had to really unlock a lot of stuff that I didn't know I had. And so to real briefly, over 5 years, I've run over 22,000 kilometers.
Wow.
So that's in training and everything. Like I've run a ton, and that and look, I'm not an ultra endurance guy, so there's a lot of amazing ultra endurance people out there that run a lot, man, and get a lot of kilometers. But I don't know if there are a huge number of them that would have done what I've done from where I came from in the span of time that I did it in. I became an ultra marathoner from zero and ran across an entire country within 5 years. And so that required a lot of consistent effort. And so, how does someone maintain that effort over 5 years? Because, man, life happens, man. You get knocked down, you get, this happens, that one, you got bills, you got child, you got family, like all these things are around. How do you do it? And what I've realized for myself, and I think it's probably true for many, many, many people who really get after it. And I've learned this from, really elite type people, military people and whatnot. And I think it's all the same, man. Operators in the States versus in Canada versus England, there's similar mindsets, and it all comes down to purpose. Why are you doing it? If it's for yourself, you're going to quit tomorrow. You're going to quit. If it's for yourself, you'll never find a good enough reason to keep going. But if it's for the person next to you, or a family member, or saving a life from suicide or mental health or whatever, it changes the gravity of it. And so for me, I was willing to endure a lot of things to be able to execute against that ultimate goal, which didn't only help others, it helped me. It gave me purpose in my life, man. If I didn't have this purpose, I'd be a shell of a person today. I wouldn't be speaking how I'm speaking to you now, man. I speak way better just because of the opportunities I've been given. And so for me, I'm extremely grateful for where I am today, despite all of the freaking hardships and challenges over the 5 or 6 years. It's been, and to answer your question about how do you manage like day after day after day, man, that I had to figure that out because you know what's hard about this, right? It's like there's not really many playbooks or people to talk to who've done it. And so I've talked to a couple people who've done it or similar things,
Uncharted territory, you know?
right? And so I've talked to some people and it's also important to talk to people that you align with and that you vibe with, right? There's some people out there that have done amazing things, but I can have a conversation with them and be like, "Fuck, man, I'm over this guy. I'm done." Like you got, there's got to be relatability, right? And so for me, it was challenging. So now, how did I do it? I had to within the first week, I had to figure it out, or it was gonna be a wrap, man, because it was so hard mentally to be out there for 8 or 9 hours running with not just the running but the pressure of leading a team, the pressure of organizing and managing social media, the pressures of managing and organizing outreach and emails, making sure everything was done properly and overseeing everything, and then making sure that we were getting donations. Why is this not happening? How come we don't have this much? I was leading it all and running
While
yeah.
having stress and the mental and physical stress of doing it.
Yeah, so I was doing all of that. And I had a second in command, Glenn, who's my business partner. He was a managing director. I delegate tasks, and he was executing everything with the team around us. But I still had all of that, right? And so, first week, I was like, man, this is a lot. How am I going to do this? And I'm worried about tomorrow, worried about yesterday, this, all the different things. And I came to the realization, man, there is no tomorrow. Like Apollo Creed says, man, in Rocky 3. There is no tomorrow, man. It's today.
Today.
That's it. I don't fucking yesterday's history, tomorrow's the future, and that doesn't exist. I got today. So what's gonna happen? I'm gonna kill and crush today. I'm owning it. That's it. And I would just compartmentalize so much. I'm just in today. And that at the end of the day, so I'd create my whole day like a work day. It was like a shift. I'd get up, I'd work for 8 to 10 hours, get to bed, eat the food, go to sleep, and do it again tomorrow. So that 10 hours, I'm crushing. I'm owning it. I'm fully focused. Don't think about tomorrow. There isn't a tomorrow. Get back to sleep, Groundhog Day the next day.
I mean, it's just crazy to think about the mental focus, the mental strength you need. Listen, the physical strength you got, obviously, but more than the physical strength, a lot more, probably 100 times more than the physical strength. There's got to be that mental strength that tells you you can't quit. How many times did you want to quit and just said, I can't do this?
Mm, I never said I want to quit. Never said it. I that didn't enter my thought. I did, but don't get me wrong, man. It was hard. But I frame things in my head, right? Like, and anytime you're doing something, especially something this challenging, you need to iterate and have iterations of every scenario of what could happen in advance of entering into it, right? So for me, the idea of me dying was on it before I even started the run. I completed my will before I even left. I said, I'm doing this or I'm going to die trying. That's it. So my conviction was all in. It was like a military mission for me. Like I'm dying or it's a wrap. Like I'm not fucking quitting, man. And or I'd have to be taken off, by medical staff or something. So so the idea of quitting wasn't there, but thoughts of like other types of thoughts, man, were like more like, man, am I doing enough? Am I giving a good voice? Am I saying the right things? Am I reaching the right people? How can we do this better? Why are we not raising this like all those kind of ideas and thoughts were going through my head. Never quitting. Um, but you know why? Because how can you quit on how can you quit on something like that, man? Like it'd be like saying like quitting on your family. You never quit on your family,
Pick
or
it back up.
yeah, like I would, yeah. So I hope that answers it, man. Like it didn't enter my
Well,
head.
so if I'm understanding this correctly, the mental toughness part of it was that you have to train your brain to think that it's not, oh, can I do this or not, but you have to completely retrain your thought to think about this. This is a mission that I have to do, and there's no quit in me. Instead of saying, oh, this would be nice to do, right?
Oh, it's a different the conviction level.
Rewire your brain essentially, right?
Yeah, it's a different way of thinking, right? And it's a and most people that I've been come across with, um, don't reframe their thinking that way. You can reframe every thought that way if you want to. And if you want, people say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to try this. I'll do it. I'll do my best. We'll see what happens." Okay, cool. That's good if you're going to go play a baseball game. But when you're doing something with the gravity of like people's lives, perhaps, or changing people's lives or helping them in some capacity, I think the conviction level has to be different, right? And so for me, it was like, okay, this is happening. If I have to freaking crawl across the country, it's happening. If I have to roll on the side of my body across the country, it's happening. It's happening. How it happens, I don't know, but it's going to happen.
And just to rehash, how many total miles in that stretch did you, or
So we were
kilometers?
close to 4,000 kilometers, right? So what we were doing was we would run from town to town, depending on the town and distance, and depending on the size of the town or city, we would stay in the town for a day or two, and then create community hotspots so people would come, and then we would do community engagements. So essentially do activations across the country, which was entirely different than the entire plan that I had initially. But I think, when you're so locked in on a plan and thinking about what you want to do rather than what could be the best outcome for everyone else, I think being really dogmatic isn't the way to go. Being flexible and fluid and dynamic and really thinking about what the ultimate goal is rather than what you wanted to do is way more important.
Here we are, a couple kids grew up in Plano, Texas, and I mean, you're just an incredible superhuman in my book. But let me shift a little bit. There's another
Sure.
incredible superhuman that also grew up in Plano, and I had the privilege of hearing his story, and that's Lance Armstrong.
Yeah.
And I went to an event at SMU, a year ago, 2 years ago, and I had the fortune to hear him speak, and it just had a huge impact on me. What the things that he said, and not so much because he was an incredible athlete and won 6 Tour de France's and something that maybe no other human can do, and he was superhuman. That wasn't what I was interested in. I was interested in. I remember, he was just like the most celebrated athlete. He was God. It was like Michael Jordan, Lance Armstrong, and Tiger Woods. Those are everywhere. So the media just kind of put him on this pedestal and just, made him this superhuman. And then the same way that the media built him up, they destroyed him and just, and by the way, sure, there was, I don't even want to get into the whole cheating scandal and all that. It wasn't something that everybody else wasn't doing. I don't want to, defend him or crucify him. I think, in my mind, the way that the media built him up was probably a little more than he deserved. And the way that the media destroyed him definitely was worse than he deserved. And so it's just like, it was really interesting for me to listen to someone that had such high highs and such low lows. The average person would probably kill themselves with,
Yeah.
I mean, to understand that Lance Armstrong, the mental strength that he has for him to still be able to go out and speak and just brush it all off, I don't think there are that many humans that have that kind of mental strength. So I applaud him, and I want to listen to him, because it's hard to be on top of the world and then on the bottom of the world, everyone hating you. Which, by the way, I think both of them was on this earth. I don't think he should have been as high. He's an athlete, but I don't think he should have been put on a pedestal as much as. But definitely, like, not when the media just loves building people up and then just destroying them. But he gave me some, the whole audience, not just me in particular, but he gave some really good lessons. And I do a lot of coaching young men, and I want to get into that a little later. Also, just your opinion, because I don't think young men get in as much encouragement. It's like there's a certain segment of society. It's like wrong to be a man and be masculine, and you have to hide your masculinity. You have to hide, and I think it's wrong, because in the old days, and Jordan Peterson says it, and you and I have talked about this before. A man has to be a monster that's capable of killing, murdering, whatever it is to save his family, to protect his family, and that's essentially how we were when we were, living in the wilderness, in the early days of Homo sapiens. And, a man has to be a monster, but what makes us civilized men is that you put that monster in check. And every day you put that monster in check. So if someone's getting close to hurting your family, you don't become that monster, right? And I think we missed that. But anyway, we'll talk that just slightly later. But I wanted to talk about the lessons that Lance Armstrong gave that I just thought was incredible. He said, growing up, he tried all the team sports, football, basketball, blah, blah, blah. And he wasn't necessarily good at them. And he was the kid that nobody ever threw the ball to. And he said a couple lessons. He said, even though you go and run there, you have the analogy of football. Even if you go out there and run the football route, and you run it 100 times and no one passes you the ball, keep running that route. Keep running that route. Keep running that route. Doesn't matter, 100 times, because the 101st time, someone may throw you that ball. And then the second lesson was, when they throw you that ball, make sure you're ready to catch that ball. That's the opportunity. The opportunity comes at everybody. Sometimes we as humans, just the opportunity comes and we fumble the ball. And we've been waiting for our whole life, but that opportunity comes right in our lap, and then we forget, right? So he said, keep running that route. When the opportunity comes, make sure you catch the ball. And then lastly, when you catch that ball, make sure you run. And so these were important lessons. But he talked about something that was incredible. He said, very much like your training, right? Tour de France, he said that, and I learned from this, both from my poker, and I went to World Series the last couple of years, and I really took this lesson and learned a lot from it. And the other one is in my political, ambitions. But he said that he fell in love with the process, and he said that was so important for him. And he said that the 6 Tour de France's that they won, the first one was the only one that he had any doubt they were going to win it. The last 5, in his mind, in his heart, he was 100% sure that they were going to win the Tour de France. And he goes, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Your bike could get destroyed. You could have an injury. You can get sick. It's a 2-week race. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. So it's almost impossible to have that kind of confidence with all the things that are outside of your control to know that you'll be able to do it. He said the only time he ever doubted they were going to win is the first time. The last 5 times, 0 doubt in his mind. And he said when they would do these Tour de France's, everybody was out there celebrating. He hated the celebration. He was in the tour bus ready to go back, get back in training. And he said, if you're going to do something, there's a lot of training involved. And most people hate the training. But he goes, if you don't fall in love with the training, if you don't fall in love with the process, you'll never succeed. So he was in love with the process of training and training and training. And I took that. And, poker is something that's completely different. A lot of celebrities, a lot of these, poker stars, they hate going to the beginning part of the poker tournament where you have to meet a bunch of random people, have small talk, and, meet all these amateurs that are annoying you. And then I used to hate going that. You want to go to the glory part, which is getting the last 10% of the tournament. Now when the real tournament starts, you're in the money and you're trying to get to the first place. But I taught myself, I was like, I got to enjoy the process. So I would go, sit at the World Series, joke around with everyone, make small talk. Sometimes people are playing the main event of the World Series of poker. Everybody's nervous, right? Some people got in from a satellite. Some people, their family donated. It's a dream to play the World Series. And they're all sitting there, and they're all just nervous. And they're all like, just like the first couple hours, it's just very nerve-wracking. So I was the one out there, I was like, guys, you're playing the World Series of poker. This is so exciting. Cheer up. Stop, being so tough on yourself. And I really enjoyed the process, and it really changed the game for me. And then the same thing in the political running for office. It's like, I had to drive to East Texas 3 hours and 3 hours back. You got to go to all these small towns. You got to do all the local stuff. And if you don't love that process, if you don't love going talking to average individual human beings, voters, and understand them, listen to what's important, listen to what things are important in their community, and you just want to go be a congressman in the glory, you're never going to succeed. So I just think it's so important that people that are taking this huge undertakings, one, have that mental focus that you have, and Lance Armstrong has had, both of you from Plano, Texas, by the way. But maybe talk about just how important it is, the training and the focus and the planning to give you that confidence that, I've done this 100 times in training, I could do it,
Yeah, I mean, those are all great insights from Lance. And you know what, man? I have more respect for Lance Armstrong now than when he was killing
Same,
the Tour de France.
100%.
Because to me, like, I've never been that guy who put like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, all these people. I mean, they're good athletes, cool, man. Like, I'm not good at. They're amazing athletes, like awesome. But who fucking cares, man? Like, really, like, good. What I value more is like people sharing some of that wisdom to other people so they can get better. And Lance Armstrong, he could have just disappeared after he got busted, and he could have just, you know, disappeared. Didn't have to say anything. But that guy stepped up, man. Like, he started really talking, and he started sharing what kind of challenges that was. And I don't look, man, you could think whatever the reason might be why he did that. I don't care. It's that he did do it, and it probably helped some people. And that's pretty awesome, man. And so for me, I don't have any judgment or any of that kind of stuff for Lance Armstrong. Yeah, okay, you cheated, cool, whatever, man. Like, I mean, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, man. And that's as the saying goes. And I'm sure the first 20 people at the Tour de France were popped for something. So, anyways, that's a different argument to have. It's maybe the sport has to be addressed, or maybe it has been, and they've sorted themselves out. Cool, but from the Lance Armstrong perspective, I agree 1000% on the process. I don't care about the outcome. The outcome doesn't matter. Because if you're entering in a process and you're doing your best in that process to achieve something in the process, the outcome's going to be good no matter what. It's immaterial. And so for me, that's what I kind of stick to. And it's not even just the process of running, or it's the process of everything. What's the saying? The way you see, if you see the way broadly, you'll see it in everything, right? It's true. Running is the same in politics. Politics is the same as cycling. Cycling is the same as basketball. Basketball is the same as business. It's all the same. You're entering a process, and how you engage that process is important. So if you're able to engage a process in one space, you can definitely recreate that process in another space so you can excel within that one too. I think a lot of times what people do is they just focus on what the outcome is rather than engaging the process. And I was like that too. I remember a few years ago I was sitting down with a mentor of mine, a retired special operations tier one operator, JTF2 plank holder. Well, I said a bunch of words there. And what that means is Canada has a special operations unit called JTF2. It's equivalent to Delta Force and SEAL Team 6. It's like the tip of the spear. And this friend of mine, mentor, he was a plank holder. Now, a plank holder, JTF2 was created in 1993 in Canada. And a plank holder is a founding member of the team when it was created. So my mentor is a founding member of JTF2 when it was created in 1993. So a big deal, and essentially a legend, and no one knows who he is. And that's the kind of way he likes it. But anyways, point being is I'm sitting down with him at his place. He lives in the mountains, about 7 hours from where I am, and just chatting. And this is going back a few years ago when I was talking about I need to make some money and I want to do this, that, and the other. I'd love to be able to make $1 million, and like talking like really talking like someone who had no freaking clue on how to even do that, right? But I was just talking, and he just straight up said to me, he goes, "What does that even mean? You don't even know what it requires to get a check for $1 million. You don't know the type of work related to that. What are you even talking about?" I go, "Yeah, but I'm going to do it." Is you don't even know what that means. You have to enter into a process. So what is the process that you're going to enter into to achieve that? And I started thinking about it. I was like, what do you mean? I'm just going to work hard and this, that, and the other? No. You have to have a baseline purpose associated to what that looks like. So I started thinking about it. I was like, because I've grown up with not a lot of money, and I would love to be able to get to a place where financially I don't have to worry about things. And one day maybe I get there. But I just adopted this idea after having this conversation with him, and I've implemented the framework about 6 months ago. And it's very simple. This is the process. I'm gonna pursue wealth aggressively. That's it. And so what does that mean? Pursuing wealth aggressively. It means you're going to learn. You're going to have conversations. You're going to try to understand. And as you enter the process of learning, the path will form itself. You don't need to form the path. You just got to enter the journey and the process. And I think everything else kind of falls into place if you do that right.
And you said something about wealth, and I think it's important to talk about why you want to be wealthy, right? I had an old boss, Steve Rosenberg, who used to say the most beautiful, and by the way, he was a billionaire. He would say, like, all the money stays in this world. That, when you say a billionaire, what does that mean? Somebody could be a billionaire for a day, someone could be a billionaire for 7 years. It's a huge difference in that. All that means, all these resources are here on earth. We come here with nothing, we leave with nothing, right? So the resources here, we as a stewards of these resources that belong to Earth, we get to decide on how these resources get spent. So when you say you want to be wealthy, it's not like you want to be on a yacht sitting, whatever. You want to have resources so you can shape the world in the way that you think should be shaped in a positive manner to make it a little bit better from the time you were born to the time you left. You leave it a little bit better, and that's all that it is. I mean, if I want to make money, it's because I want to be able to make movies, books, things that share some of my knowledge with the rest of the world, and maybe talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely, man. Look, I've never been a guy who chased money. I've never been that guy. I've never had a fancy car. I've never had all the bells and whistles. Never owned an amazing watch. Like, I'm not that
I had
guy.
a fancy BMW when we were playing now, so
Yeah, well, my dad
I
had a
love
bit of
that
money, and he bought.
BMW.
It was it a 528e
Those are good.
1980 something.
Yeah, if you had that BMW right now,
But yeah, no, I mean, I grew up. My parents did okay, and they provided the best way they could for what we had at the time. Um, but for many years I've been without a lot of look, I'm not poor, but just normal, average, just an average guy, right? And government employee working for the federal government and law enforcement, that type of dude, right? But for me, acquiring wealth, it means something else to me. It's to what you said. It'll give me resources to help more people, right? And I spend all my time thinking about it, like all my time thinking about how I can do more, what I can do of service. That's just what I do, man. And so for me, if I'm able to figure out a way to acquire some wealth and make some decent money, that'll help me scale my impact to other people, right? And I want to just scale that, man. Like, if I was able to run across the country um, and raise $200,000-300,000 to support other people with no income, like I did that with no financial means. I got sponsors and I got people to support. I got philanthropists to underwrite the costs of the operation costs. Like I didn't pay for it out of my own pocket because I didn't have the funds for it. So what that does that tell me? And this is me just talking out loud now. Like as someone who wasn't that confident, didn't have much self worth, and um, you know pretended like I was a badass when I really wasn't one. I projected like I was jacked and this, that, and the other, but I wasn't really a badass, man. I wasn't really a guy who could really take the heat. And then becoming someone you know, who got some respect from really, really amazing people, both in the business world and the military space and everything else. It did help me mentally because I thought, man, I'm just this freaking loser. Why are these people helping me? And I came to the realization is because of the purpose and what I was doing, and they resonated with the goals that I had. And look, man, I'm a service oriented person. That's just who I am. I grew up in a Sikh household, and in the Sikh faith, there's a term called seva.
And that's actually
And
what I want to talk about next. So perfect.
yeah, you like that segue? But seva is a tenet of the Sikh faith, and it's like it's embedded in the faith. And seva, I'm not sure if it's a Persian word. Maybe it is. I don't know. Does seva mean anything in Farsi?
Safa?
Seva, Seva.
Seva. I have to do some digging, not
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
So seva in the Sikh faith means selfless service. That's it. So you do without expectation of return. And so that's kind of what I've been doing for 5 years, man. I expect nothing in return. I give whatever I can. And you know what's amazing? A lot of faiths say this, right? Christianity, definitely I know because it's interesting. I've seen you're on the path of Christianity. And
Oh,
man,
that came from Jordan Peterson.
oh really?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing, man. There has been I'm not a really religious person, but I'm keeping an open mind because I can't ignore what I see and what's been around me. And there was divine intervention or divine protection as I was running across the country. Things were happening that would have derailed things, or look, there was one day I'm running through the prairies, I believe it was. So the prairies is like the Midwest, a lot of tornadoes and whatnot going on. And I ran into a tornado, man. And the freaking weather was a gong show. We stayed at an RV park that night. The tornado went around the RV park. Like, what the hell? Like everything else was mangled, but nothing touched us. And so and then that kind of stuff occurred. Like we'd come across like these Christians kept showing up, like really religious types. I remember I was running from Cochrane to Calgary. It was a really bad mental day in the sense of like the pressures and stressors. I was climbing this mount, like this hill that was straight up, and it was like 100 degrees out. It was hot, and this guy in a catering truck saw the RV on the side when I was still running, so my crew saw the was in the RV. And the guy stopped and started asking questions, and Glenn starts telling him, "Hey, we're just running across Canada." And Glenn was feeling the pressure and stress too. And this guy says, "Hey, he had a bunch of pierogies, like tons of pierogies, and like smokies, sausages, like all that, and he just gave us all this food." And then Glenn has a conversation with this guy. He's like, "Hey, man, we're really struggling. Like, we don't know what the hell we're doing, and we could use some help." And he was just being honest and authentic. And this guy calls someone and ends up having a conversation with Glenn. And it was a really he was a Christian, God-fearing guy. And he's had a conversation with Glenn at the time, basically saying, because we were really worried about how much money we were raising and how much we hadn't raised until that point. Maybe like 5 grand, and it's been 2 weeks, and we're like, man, we invested so much time and effort. We had all this money spent into this thing, and we were only generated 5,000. Like we were like really not happy. And then both me and Glenn talked to this guy. He's a business owner in the Calgary area, owns like this big frozen pizza company. And he goes to both of us. He goes, man, don't worry about the money. You're doing God's work. And just keep doing it. Money will show up. It'll come. And so what that helped us do was just let go. We're like, you know what? This is right, man. Like, let's just keep doing the work, do what's positive, help, run, engage. Like, we're like missionaries of mental health running across the country. And so when we let go, that helped with that pressure, man. We're just like, okay, this it's not in our hands. We just do what we can control. Everything else, let the outcome be. And that's part of being in the process. Being in a process, you don't worry about the outcome. You just focus on the process.
I think I remember watching a documentary once of Russell Simmons, and he's like, just do something that you think is impactful and don't think about, oh, how am I going to get paid? The money will come. You do something impactful, the money will come. I'm the same way, you know, just do what you think is the right thing. Do what you think is going to help humanity. The money part, you'll figure that out, right?
Yeah.
I want to switch a little bit to you know, yeah, I've been to 3 or 4 Indian weddings now. I came to your wedding. It was the first time I think I went to a Punjabi wedding. It was like 4 days, and you know, by the way, there's so many similarities between the Iranian culture and Indian culture, and you know, a lot of people don't know. You know, Persia, you know, was you know, big empire where you know, the whole, you know, Thomas Jefferson actually copied the United States from, you know, reading Cyropedia, which was a book that was written by the Greeks about Persia, and he read 2 copies of it, one in English and one in Latin. And basically, you know, Ostan in Farsi means state. So all of the stands were, you know, states in Persia, and they all had their own religion, their own customs, their own, you know, they had their own governors that ran it, but they were part of this kind of United Nations or United States type of thing, and people don't know. Hindustan was also part of Persia, and you know, there's some great stories, and I don't want to get into those. But you know, we just have so many similarities. We were part of the, you know, obviously I'm American, you're Canadian, but you know, our family's history, we have a lot of similarities. You know, we were part of the same empire. We celebrate a lot of the same holidays. A lot of words are similar. So tell me a little bit about the Sikh culture. I want, you know, and one of the things I think it's important for people to understand about the Indian culture is that, you know, the different sects and class system, and how, you know, what was the purpose of all that, and how that got created, and the Sikhs kind of placement into that whole class system, or the warrior class system.
Yeah, so look, I'll preface this by saying I'm not a scholar in Sikh faith or religion. I just grew up in a household where my parents weren't even excessively religious, but we did understand and learn the religion and the faith and really the fundamentals rather than, um, you know, the the outward representation of it, right? And so Sikh means student or someone who's learning. Sikh. It means to learn. And so the Sikh faith originated over 500 years ago in the Punjab region, northwest region of India. And so India is an extremely diverse country, like one of the most diverse countries on the planet, and one of the most racist countries on the planet. But having said that, the Sikh faith represents just about 2% of the India population. So we're a minority group, right? And there's more Christians in India than Sikhs, just to put it in perspective, right?
Well, people don't know there's 200 million Muslims in India. People don't even.
Yeah. So in India, the largest Muslim population in a non-Muslim country is India,
Is India. Yeah.
right?
I
Yeah,
think
it's
number
huge.
one is Indonesia with 290 million Muslims. Number two is Pakistan with like 240 million, and number three, India with 200 million. And people don't realize that.
Yeah, but India, Indonesia, and Pakistan are Muslim countries,
Right.
whereas India isn't one,
Hindu country, right?
right? Yeah, so they have a pretty big population. I mean, granted, the population in India is like 1.3 billion, but
Right.
and, you know, anyways, so the Sikh faith originated in Punjab, and the history of Punjab is interesting because any invading force that came into the region had to go through Punjab. That was the only way the Persians, the Romans, all these people could enter, was there. So Punjab was a melting pot of those cultures, those peoples, and it also helped form an ideology or way of living because those areas were being invaded. So those people had to figure out ways to defend themselves. So if you were to look at even from a, like optics perspective, if you look at a wide variety of Indians, if you look at Punjabis versus a Southern Indian, you'll see that there are physical differences. just generally speaking. Some are taller, bigger. Punjabis tend to be taller, bigger, lighter skinned. Um, and that all comes from that sort of invading forces, the Persians and Romans. So in India, and look, again, I'm not a scholar. This is my best understanding of it. In India, they're a race or an ethnic group of Dravidians, which are southern Indians, is a different ethnicity, a different ethnic group.
And they're
And
the
then you
they're the religious class, right? Essentially, the
no,
southern.
so Dravidians are not even a religion. It's like saying Aryan,
Got
right? Okay, so a Dravidian is that's the southern part of India, and where they look very, very different. And the northern Punjab part, that sort of region, is the Aryan region where they're considered Aryan, right? And so now you have just that distinction. But from a religious perspective, the religion, the Sikh faith originated, was codified about 300 years ago in Punjab during a
For the
time of,
audience, that's completely different than Buddhism or Hinduism, right?
yeah, Sikh faith is a monotheistic faith that believes in unity, one God. Um, it's more of like, I would argue, more of like universal, like,
It's like Sufist type of thing, right?
sorry?
It's like a Sufi, like very.
So there are elements of Sufism, mysticism in it, but fundamentally, it's an interesting faith because it straddles two worlds. And so the main tenets of the faith is be spiritual, be religious, but be part of the world too. So you have some faiths where, let's say, if you're a Hindu, you can be a Hindu hermit, live in the mountains, and don't engage the world. Or but in or even in some really religious Christians or Muslims, you don't get married or certain types of things just don't happen. Sikh faith doesn't believe that at all. They believe you can be religious and faithful, but you also have to be part of the world, have a job, earn an honest living, give back to the community. Like these are actually tenets within the faith, and the faith also believes. So basically, about 300 years ago, the faith was actually codified into an actual structure. Before then, they had gurus, which were teachers, 10 total gurus. The first one was Guru Nanak, who came up with the concept of from that time because there was battles between Hindus and Muslims, and there was that strife. And so Guru Nanak came around and was basically saying, "There's no Hindu, there's no Muslim, we're all the same." And that was kind of the basic foundation. And then it got built from guru after guru, and then the final guru, Guru Gobind Singh, codified everything into the Khalsa, into an actual faith, and into a doctrine and into a religious book. And the religious book that was created at that time was written in multiple languages, has some Farsi in it, has some Sufi poets in there as well. But because they all kind of believe similar types of things, and that from that moment on, the only guru would be that book. So no other living guru. That's it. No more. So now Guru Gobind Singh at the time, there was war, right? There was the Muslim invaders. The Muslim Empire was coming in, trying to really oppress the everyone there. And if you didn't convert, yeah, if you didn't convert, you would be executed.
And you have to pay
And so,
taxes if you either have to convert or you have to pay taxes.
yeah, yeah. And so now it was interesting because the Hindu faith also believes in the caste system. So there was an entry point for Muslims because Muslims don't believe in a caste. So then you could sell some people on that, right? Like it was helpful because if you're a Dalit or an untouchable, I mean anything's better than being an untouchable because you can never get out of that. And so this was the environment. And so now Punjabis at that time were really being known as fighters, warriors, and a lot of the Hindu leadership would come to the Sikhs and be like, "Hey, can you help us? Like we're being, persecuted, this, that, and the other." And so this is where the Sikhs really start rising as a warrior class, as a fighting class, and the term has been given as the saint soldier, right? Is what Sikhs are considered in the faith.
They're essentially.
Yeah, and so what they ended up doing was Guru Gobind Singh created the look that the Sikhs have today, which is the long beard, the turban, the kirpan or the sword, the
A lot
bracelet,
of
the
people
kara.
mistakenly think the turban is a religious thing, but it's a warrior outfit, right? And you have a dagger
Essentially,
because people like a lot of times people like mistake Sikhs for like mullahs in the Islamic religion, they're actually not the same at all, right?
No. So if you were to, I mean, the way it was created, it was like you said, like a uniform, and it was created in such a way that anyone could see a Sikh and go to them and ask for help, and that's kind of what it was, right? And so the
Like the
Sikhs,
police officer, you're like, hey, can you come help me? My child needs to, he's
yeah,
getting abducted or something, right?
yeah, they would. So what the faith is, you look, you're peaceful. It was, it's a peaceful until there's no other alternative, and then you take on the sword, and
I
then
feel like
you
there's
fight back.
similarities with the Japanese samurai culture between the Sikhs.
I,
'Cause,
I think.
long hair, dagger, the outfits. I mean, it's just probably different, but it has a lot of similarities. I think.
I mean, you could argue the same for knights. You
Nice.
could argue, like, I mean, there's similarities, I think, anywhere in the world when it comes to this kind of mentality, right? And look, they were a small fighting force, effectively, right? A small population of people, but even to this day, the Sikh faith is still a small population, but they make a pretty big majority in the Indian military. They have a Sikh regiment, right? Like in the Indian military right now. So, and they've been one of the smallest forces, but even during World War I, World War II, they were highly decorated fighting for the Allied forces. And there've been so a lot of members of the British Indian Army were Sikhs, have also been awarded the Victoria Cross. And so for those who may not know, the Victoria Cross is the British equivalent of the Congressional Medal of
Medal of
Honor.
Honor, right?
Yeah, so it's they've been fighting for for good for many, many, many years. And so to me now, I mean, with the environments we have now, and I don't see it as much in the real world, but on social media, you do see, at least here in Canada, and I'm starting to see it more in the US, negative interpretations or images of Sikh people because of whatever immigration or that sort of connection to Muslims or whatever it is. And it's unfortunate, man, because like Sikhs are like, you want Sikhs around, man, because like they integrate into society well. They support their communities. They volunteer. Like, here's the thing about Sikhs, man. Their temples are called gurdwaras or temples, right? They just give free food away every day. Anybody who enters that place, you can eat for free. And Sikhs are well known for giving homeless people food all the time. Like, if you go to the Golden Temple in India, it's the holiest religious place for Sikhs. Each day they feed over 100,000 meals.
Oh wow.
Each, and all volunteer, all
That
volunteers.
the term Punjab. I learned that 10, 12
Yeah,
years ago. Punjab means panj up. It's a Farsi term. Panj
yeah,
means number five, which, by the way, in Polish of all religion or languages, panj also means five. So there's similarities in language. The Indo-European language.
yeah.
Panj
Well,
in
Punjab,
Farsi means five, and where Punjab means where five rivers come to join, and that's where
yeah,
the civilization was built around those five rivers. And I
yeah,
didn't know that. That was a Farsi term.
yeah,
You and I talked about this also, like the term Sardar. Sardar is also
yeah,
like a military leader, like almost like a general.
yeah.
So talk about that a little bit.
So every Sikh, if you see a Sikh with a turban, you call him Sardarji.
Sardar.
There's they're Sardars, and I didn't realize that was where the origins came from because I grew up hearing that word, right? And I didn't know it meant like military leader. I just said, "Oh, it's Sardarji," right? But it makes sense, man, because like it's a term that's I grew up in that environment, but I didn't grow up in India, so I don't know how people in India look at Sikhs, right? And so I feel like there's some environments where just the general population look at a Sikh person, they look at him with respect. Like back in the day, many, many years ago, I think when the Sikh faith was emerging and Sikhs were being more supportive to the Hindus to fighting against Islam intruders, the eldest, I think it was either the eldest or the youngest son, I can't remember, one son from every Hindu family would be sent to be a Sikh. It was almost like their recruitment,
Yeah.
and they would send the son to go. Okay, you're gonna become a Sikh, and they would send them to go fight, and they
Like a
would.
traveling temple, you sending them to go kind of learn battle, right?
Yeah, yeah, and so the Sikhs did have their own martial art. It was called Gatka. It's a circular form of fighting. If you're on a battlefield using swords and certain types of weapons, and multiple attackers are coming around you, there's a method and style of fighting that they used. They were great horsemen. They were great archers. They were great hunters. All of these things, and to this day, you don't see that the same way. We were talking about at the beginning about being monsters, and I think when you were saying that, I think I would love to at least share a little bit about that sort of thought. Peterson would say is that be a monster. I think it's absolutely correct. And I think a lot of people misinterpret that too, right? In the sense of like, what does it mean to be a monster? Yeah, you could understand the terms, but are you doing what you should be doing to become a monster? So yeah, I can be all angry. I'll fight you, this, that, and the other. Do you even know how to fight? What are you doing to learn how to be that protector? I would argue most people aren't doing anything, but they say they are doing something. But oh, I'm a tough guy. I'm strong. I can fight. Have you even tried it? Because it's easy to say because most people talk a lot. But I guarantee you, you throw most of those people who talk like that, who think they're a monster, but aren't doing anything to become one, they would piss their pants in a real fight, or at least lose very quickly. So I would suggest definitely be a monster, but learn how to shoot, man. Learn how to hold a pistol. If you don't want to do that, learn jujitsu, learn a martial art, do something, be healthy, be that warrior class of people. That's what a monster is.
Potential energy versus actual, like potential energy, you have to have that potential to be able to be a killer. If a lion's going to kill your family, right? You got to be able to go fight that lion with your bare hands. Doesn't mean you're going to do it, but you have to have the ability.
Yeah, and so how does one have the ability? I don't have the ability to do that right now with a lion, but maybe I'll learn by picking up a certain type of rifle and learning how to hunt it, learning how to do all things. That's where the action happens. Saying you will do something without it pressure testing it is foolish. You have to pressure test, otherwise you don't know. And that's what it's about. Just saying you're a monster is great, but you have to pressure test it. And why I'm saying this is because that's the journey I've been on for 5 years. I've been pressure testing the monster. And so now I know if something happens, I know I could probably engage. I don't know if I'll win, but I'll engage it and I'll do my best. And I know how to look, I'm a jiu-jitsu athlete. I know how to fight. I know how to use firearms. I know how to use my voice. I know how to, verbal judo. I know all those things. So I would argue that's more accurate of being a monster. And if someone is out there thinking they are one and they're not doing the work to become one, I would suggest or at least urge you to do the work too.
By the way, I've been to India 5 or 6 times. I went to Chandigarh, and the food was
Yeah.
similar. I went to this restaurant. I think it was at the Taj Hotel in Chandigarh. It's called Saffron. Oh my God, the food was amazing. But it's very similar to Persian food, and we have similarities. And I think the Punjab region, Chandigarh, those places, the food's a lot more similar to like
I
Afghanistan.
think so, like the tandoor, I think the clay oven, right? Where you guys make your kebabs, right?
Yeah.
It's similar kebab. We
And by
call
the
it
way,
kebab.
I had those kebabs in China in a Uyghur restaurant, and they're putting in a thing, and it's like
Oh,
lamb with
it's
very similar. I mean, all
similar.
those people travel through from Turkey to Persia to India to the Silk Road and went to China. And there's a whole
I think the only main difference between the kebabs is probably the spices
spice.
that are used.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's it.
Because the Persian kebabs, they have they're more milder, but they have like a
There's no spice in the Persian ones. See, it's just onion.
this. It's not hot. It's not hot spice, but it's flavorful.
Right.
But then you go to India, Punjab, and you have a kebab from there. They become more spicy. They're hotter, but still good. And so I think that's the cool part of like having these similarities. Because I mean, look, man,
And naan, like naan is a Farsi term. That means bread. Like
yeah.
it literally means bread.
Well,
And
it's clay oven bread, right?
yeah,
Yeah. That's the thing too, man. Growing up with you guys in Dallas, man, like, and I know we weren't going to speak on politics, but I'll just share this real quick because I think for me this is kind of interesting because I my girlfriend lives in North Vancouver and it's a very highly Persian
Persian,
population.
I'm jealous kind of.
Yeah, and so I just want to say, man, like I don't get involved in politics or any of that kind of stuff, but I did grow up with you and Ali, and you guys are really, we haven't hung out many years, but I get emotional thinking about Ali even to this day, man. Um,
Just an amazing energy, just amazing soul. And it's so funny because, like, me and him obviously were born in the same country. We were friends in Iran, and they lived in Shiraz. We lived in Tehran. My father and his father were friends in the Air Force, and then we moved to Germany together. Went to the same school in Germany. Then we went to LA. They came to Dallas, and then we moved to Dallas. So he and I were friends in 3 different countries, and it was like, and we wanted the same things, but we both wanted to make a change in the world. My view is like, I got to go make some money and then get people to listen to me. His view was like, I'm going to be like Bob Dylan. I'm going to be living, poor and really struggle, and that's how I'm going to get people to listen to me. But even though we had different routes on how to get there, we both wanted the exact same thing. And it's just really bad, to have somebody with just so many great memories, just a larger than life personality, and I miss him.
Being taken away from, I guess the point I was trying to make is like my interpretation of what's happening in Iran is through your eyes and his eyes. And so I don't know the politics. I don't know any of it. What I do know is you and him. And I grew up with you guys and your families. And for me, it's like, man, it sucks what happened to you guys. It sucks what was forced upon you. And that's what I advocate for. I just advocate for my friends. And I would love to see a resolution, not for anything else, but for you and for Ali and your guys' family in a way that is something that you would like to see. So for me, that's my perspective. You hear politics and people here over there, oh, the Shah, this, that, all these. I don't know any of that, man. All I know is you and you're a friend. I know Ali, he was really close to me. And I know the stories that I heard from you guys and your families of the traumas and the troubles and the anguish and the refugee camps and all of that stuff. And to me, it's like, man, I hope the best for you, and I hope the best for what would be a good outcome for Iran.
No, I appreciate that. It's interesting. It's a very loaded subject, but Iran had this amazing asset, which is oil, and it's the worst thing that ever happened to it because it had so much oil and so many number one gas reserves in the world. The mullahs mismanaged and handed a lot of it to Russia or the former Soviet countries. But historically, it's always been a little bit of a fight between two powers. The Russians always thought Iran was their piggy bank, and the British always thought Iran was their piggy bank. And for many years, the British just kind of looted Iran. They had this king under the Qajar dynasty who basically gave away all the stands that I mentioned. They had him drunk and on opium and living in London. He wasn't even living in Persia. He was just giving a lot of stuff away. And they until the U.S. kind of stepped in, and then the Shah of Iran came, and he was more kind of on the U.S.'s camp, and the British just didn't like that. Anyway, we don't want to get into the kind of the deep politics, but one thing that just happened that was very interesting is that a lot of people didn't read between the lines. And again, I don't want to have you talk politics, but the King Charles just came to the U.S. and Trump gave him the whole red carpet treatment. Praised him, even though he made some jokes about Trump. Praised him and praised the royal family and the British family. Blah blah blah. There's a lot of bad things that also come out of the British system, and they got away from this whole colonialist mentality, but a lot of that's still continuing today. I think the British people also are victims. There's definitely people, powers that be, that created this mess. But the way I understand it, when President Trump summoned King Charles to come to the U.S., and no British royal has come since 1991. So like the year I moved to the United States, 37 years ago, they haven't been there. All of a sudden, in the middle of this war, and the British have been kind of supporting these mullahs. In fact, a lot of people think between them and the Russians are who put these mullahs in power. But the way I understand it, he invited King Charles, gave him all the respect, gave him all the things, never disrespected him, gave him his glory. But behind closed doors, he pulled him aside. He said, I'm going to stick my foot up your you-know-what if you don't let go. We're gonna have regime change in Iran. You got to stop your ways, and your government, whatever you have to do. Otherwise, the British government is going to become a third-rate, third world power if you don't listen to us. And watch what's going to happen this week. I think this week there's going to be war that's going to start back up, and they're going to have regime change. And Trump's been very careful, I think, playing his cards close to his chest and not kind of telling the enemy what his plans are. But it's pretty messed up. And by the way, I wanted to talk about a couple things is about Persia and Hindustan being the same country essentially. Is that chess was created in Hindustan, and we take credit for it because we're both right, because it was created in Hindustan, but it was created to train the military when Hindustan was part of Persia, right? So we say chess is Persian, you say chess is.
Well, we also say the number 0 was created in India.
By the way, it was. We're all the same name, right? And it's interesting, but my last name is Vaziri. Vazir means minister, but the original chess, the way it was created.
Vazir means minister. Like wazir.
The chess piece, all the chess pieces are exactly translated correctly, except one. The queen is actually not a queen. It's a vizier, and that's why the queen has the most moves, because the queen is the minister of the king, the vizier, who has more power than the king. But in the British interpretation, when they changed it to the queen, it's not the queen; it's the vizier.
That makes way more sense.
It makes a lot more sense. Like but back in those days, especially in the British royalty, the queens didn't have that much power. In right. cultures, they actually did, but that piece was it was a Shah and Vazir, and when you say checkmate, it's actually you're saying kish mat. Kish means basically you're checking the king, the Shah. But all of that got translated. But the one thing that got translated wrong was it wasn't a queen; it was a vizier, which is a king's consigliere or a king's right hand man or a king's minister.
That makes a lot more sense, because I remember when I was playing as a little kid, man. I'm like, well, how come the queen is more powerful than the king? It doesn't logically make sense. If you're going
correctly, because the British wanted, probably Queen Elizabeth probably had a hand.
Yeah.
Wanted to make herself glorify herself a little more. But the other thing, there's a story, and I want to see if you know this story, and it's an oral tradition. But in Farsi, we basically say, I think Sachin, I think your camera went out.
Yeah, 1 sec. Sorry, my bad, bro.
No worries. So I'll continue. So in Farsi, there's a lot of analogies. When you want to say that you got ripped off, you say somebody put a hat on your head, but also it's the same meaning as somebody took a hat off your head. So if you say somebody put a hat on your head, it means they ripped you off. Say somebody took a hat off your head, it also means they ripped you off. And the story I understand is the two largest diamonds in the world, the Kohinoor and Darya Noor, they were both diamonds that belonged to India, and I think they were mined in either India or in Africa, and they came to India. But these two diamonds, people don't know much about them. These two diamonds are essentially priceless. One of them, I think it's like 267 carats, and it's the most immaculate, diamond. The other one is like 180, 190 carats. They're two largest diamonds that ever existed. No diamonds ever even comes close. The value of each of them is probably in the trillions, because they're just priceless. Nobody can ever create something like that. So the way that I understood it is when the Persian armies came to basically not invade India, but to make India, Hindustan, part of the Persian Empire, they came to India, and I forget who the king of India was at the time, but he had heard that the Persians were coming. They wanted these two diamonds. They wanted to take and put it in the royal treasury in Persia, in the mothership. And the Indian king had gotten this information, so he basically took the Kohinoor and Darya, the two largest, and he hid it in his turban. Well, the Persian king had also got information that he was hiding these diamonds in his turban. So when they came, they had this ceremony to make sure India or Hindustan joined Persia, and the Persian king told the Indian king, he said, "Hey, we're excited. You guys are going to be part of our Persian Empire, blah, blah, blah. We have this tradition when we, merge with another country, I will give you the crown." He had this crown, a lot of gold and diamonds and stuff in it. "I'm going to give you my crown. I'm going to take your turban." So that's how those two diamonds got stolen, essentially, from India. It's funny because those two diamonds stayed in Iran. One of them still sits in one of the central bank of Iran. The other one was stolen during the revolution. And I forget which one's which. The other one was stolen during the revolution, I think by guerrillas, and then they ended up selling it, and now it sits in a British museum. I just saw Mamdani was claiming that he wants that diamond back to India. So and by the way, there's the story of these two diamonds are even get even crazier. At some point, there was Ahmad Shah, who was the king of Afghanistan, and somehow these diamonds from Persia ended up in Afghanistan. There's a lot of basically like between India, Afghanistan, and Iran. These diamonds were
They'll fight about it.
each other
Well,
time, but they're
I
both
think,
like priceless diamonds.
yeah, I think ultimately the Koh-i-Noor diamond was in Queen Elizabeth's crown.
It was, yeah, but it was,
Yeah.
it was stolen, I think, from
Yeah, I don't know, but ultimately that's where it
a lot
is.
of different countries that claim, and I don't know the exact
Yeah.
story, but Nur in Farsi means light. So Kuh Nur means, I think maybe probably in India too, Kuh
Yeah.
Nur means the mountain of light because it had so much light because it's so big. And then the other
Hmm.
one, Darya means ocean, the ocean of light. Because
Oh, Daria.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the same word in
yeah,
Hindi and Punjabi.
these diamonds are so big and so
Mm.
immaculate and so much light. Literally, the king, the mountain of light and the ocean of light because they have so much light. Anyway, I just thought these stories were great. But because the king put the crown on his head and took the turban, the term to rip somebody off is literally put a hat on his head or take a hat off, which is supposed to symbolize the crown or the turban.
Yeah, I've never heard that before, but I can see why it would be a saying.
It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
man.
So, Sachin, I think we're going to wrap up, but like the last 10 minutes, I want to spend some time talking about, we have a gentleman that we both looked up to, you a lot more because I didn't know him that well. I met him a few times, and that was Coach Webb. I remember my first day at Plano, I was in the locker room, and, I think I dropped the F-bomb, and he came in here and just yelled at me. And as we were in high school, I think we were a lot more disciplined than current kids. Like he was talk about how amazing having these figures, these father figures, these mentors have been for me and you. And what do we do? I think that the culture has changed a little bit. I think men are not being as masculine. Men are, being taught that it's not okay to be masculine. It's not okay to be tough. How do we bring that culture back? And by the way, I was bullied. You were bullied. We're all bullied now. Like the whole bullying process. Sometimes you kind of need it to grow up. I'm not. There's really bad bullying that we don't need, but there's just normal kids being kids. How do we, what are you doing to to prepare the youth, our future generations to kind of go through the toughness that we have? And by the way, I'm sure the older generation, they were tougher than us. They have to go fight in World War I, World War II, Vietnam, we had it a lot easier than the previous generations. But how do we, if you were to kind of talk to young men today, what would you say to them? How would you prepare them to?
It's interesting that you bring that up because that's effectively what I do now is I talk to young men and men. I actually launched a men's mentorship group now, so a 42-day program where I actually one-on-one have these conversations with a framework that I've created over the last 5 years that helped me. I'm delivering that to other people now. And so that's one way I do it. Another way is I try not to tell people what to do anymore because what I've learned over the years is that people don't like to be told what to do. This even if it's the right thing. I know when my dad or someone would just tell me, I would just be like, yeah, whatever, man. It was only until I was open and started asking the questions. So for me, what I try to be is the person. I just demonstrate how I like to function. And if that resonates with someone, they're going to come to me and ask the question. And I just message that out on my social media. And what is it to be a man? I don't know, man. I think it's, look, you have to be honest and transparent. I think there's nothing wrong with being an emotional type of person because I'm extremely emotional, but you got to be able to regulate your emotions properly and utilize them in the right types of ways. So for me, I do these mentorship programs. I have a daughter who's going to be 9 this month. I teach her. I have look. She's been doing jujitsu for 4 years, man, and so that's my next generation. For me, I can't like if I'm being honest, I can't really make a massive impact on strangers. I can just be me and whatever people consume, they consume. And if it helps one person in some tiny kind of way and they take some action in some way, that's pretty much the extent of my interaction, right? Because social media doesn't allow for accountability and further insight. That's what my mentorship program is. But what I can do every single day is with my daughter. And with my daughter, I can instill values in her. And what I think the most beneficial um, thing I can give her is demonstrating what's humanly possible, showing what's you can be capable of if you go all in and find a purpose greater than yourself. Then you can find real power that way. And also for my daughter, yeah, just giving her the tools and setting up the environment where she can be successful. Like, I don't want her being entitled. So there's a way to do that. You don't give them everything, they have to earn things. And I think what's happening these days with the younger generation people, they don't earn as much. And it doesn't have to be earning money, but you have to earn your way every single day. You aren't given a free hand, and you shouldn't be. And I learned that through my childhood. I was given a lot, and I fucked a lot of it up. And I
You don't
didn't. My
appreciate it as
parents.
much, right?
Sorry.
You don't appreciate it as much if you're just handed.
No. Yeah, and like for me, I became a bit entitled, to be honest. I thought I deserved things, and when I started realizing I didn't deserve anything, I only earned what I got. And that was very helpful. And so I speak to a lot of younger people these days, 18 to 25, and my girlfriend has a 23-year-old daughter, so I get to talk to these different types of people to see what the vibe is. And the general vibe is that people are a bit more entitled these days. They're a little less hopeful because of what they see every single day on social media. And my job is to, if I interact with someone, is to be myself so that they can see um, what it means to be someone who has uh, standards and conviction and someone who believes in earning something. That's it. I don't try to make people do anything, man. If you want to do it, cool. If you think what I'm saying is cool, that's cool too. And if you want to talk to me about that, I'm more than willing to have a conversation.
That's awesome. Any other things, final thoughts you want people to know about you? If they want to, get a hold of you, where do they go? Social media, email,
For sure.
how do they come?
Yeah, so look, I'm a mental health advocate. I'm a public speaker. I speak on various different topics as it relates to resilience, mental health, performance, all of those types of things within organizations, companies, or even just small groups. I also have a podcast called the Long Run Podcast where we speak on various different topics on just overall wellness. And right now the podcast is we're sharing the story of the run day to day and people that I met and bringing them into studio and having those conversations. I have a website, so if anyone wants to check out the website, it's suchinmotion.com. And I just launched a mentorship program. Well, I'm launching a mentorship program, so if anyone wants to check that out, you can go to Instagram at such.in.motion. The link to apply is in my bio. And I'm really proud of this, man. Like the mentorship course and program that I've developed. It's taken me a few years and pressure tested experiences and my own sort of frameworks that I'm going to deliver to people. And I'm only taking 5 people. I want to be heavily involved, so that's the capacity I can handle. And I want to be able to help those who are trying to get to another level where they feel stuck where they're at right now and just need to get to that another level. I'm not promising people are going to be millionaires or anything like that, but I can definitely promise them that I'll give them a framework to survive for the rest of their life. And so, yeah, if anyone wants to check that out, go check out my the bio on my Instagram. You can apply, and then maybe we'll work together.
If someone wants to give you financial support, donate, or if they want to
Yep.
book you on a podcast, where do they go?
So you can either go to my website, you can email me there, or even just straight email me. It's such@suchinmotion.com. And if you want to donate, again, Instagram in my bio, I have a donation link. Every donation, well, if you're Canadian and you're in Canada, you get a tax receipt because that's how charities work here up in Canada. We can't we can't give international tax receipts. But yeah, the work I do is for mental health support. We're focused on men's mental health at this stage of the game, and we'll likely expand that out.
Last question. For young men, they want to better themselves. What programs would you say to follow, or what books would you recommend they read to kind of, put themselves to the limit, push themselves, kind of do what you've done?
Sure. I mean, look, I'll just suggest the first two books that I started reading that helped me. It was Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink, and the second book I read, I didn't finish it until a few years later, but it really got me moving. It was Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. And another one I'm going to suggest,
Great
it's
both
not,
books, by the way. Both.
both are really good books. Another book I'm going to suggest, maybe people can put it on their radar. It's actually two friends of mine have written a book, and it's coming out later this year. And those two people, one of them is that special operator, my mentor, Sean Taylor, and the other one is Seb Lavoie, who's a retired SWAT team leader in Canada. And they've written a book called The Warrior in the Garden. It's basically performance, what a person should be, and how they can perform better in a warrior's world.
You know, I got involved in Ibogaine for America, or Americans for Ibogaine organization, and made Chase Rowan, who was a Special Forces in the Army, and Marcus Luttrell, who was a Navy SEAL, whose entire platoon essentially got killed, and you know their journey that they had, the drug addiction, and all the things they had to overcome. Luckily, you know, with the help of Joe Rogan and Brian Hubbard, they were able to get to the Trump administration and legalize psychedelics for you know, medical research for PTSD for veterans. You know, it's just been so helpful to get that help. And you know, it's so crazy that all this stuff was banned during the Nixon era, really, because you know they wanted to keep the hippies out of, you know, in public, so they made these things so highly illegal. But now we get to kind of do that. But it's so crazy. I mean, you and I both grew up in Texas. Like, Texas was so conservative, and we never thought Texas is at the forefront of medical research right now for, like, you know.
I mean, I think government.
It's
I think
crazy that we have that here now.
it's awesome. I think Governor Perry was one of those guys who led the charge on that, right?
Yeah, Governor Perry was there. You know, when I went to that event with Brian Hubbard, Governor Perry was there, and you know, he's behind it, and you know, he's been kind of dedicating himself to this cause. But this issue of PTSD, and you know, I don't know if I told you, my father suffered from PTSD. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he would
I'm
scream
sorry.
in the middle of his night, and it was because he was tortured, and we didn't know that, and he kept that to himself. He never told us, and we never even knew till we heard him screaming, you know. So it's just the thing that's so important. I mean, so many people give their life, dedicate their life, not just the people that go to war and die during war to keep these countries like the U.S. and Canada safe, but the ones that come back with all the baggage they bring back. And it's just so important for us to do that, to help veterans causes. And you know, you're doing that at the forefront. So I salute you, and I really appreciate that. And it's been an amazing conversation, and thank you for being on this podcast. And any final
Uh,
thoughts?
no, man. Listen, man. I'm really proud of you, man. Seeing how you've like, it's cool, man. It's 31 years later, and we're still having conversations, and you're doing the thing, and I appreciate you having me on and seeing value in what I've done and what I'm saying. So, thanks, man. And I look forward to seeing you at our 30-year high school reunion.
I know we have our 30 year this year. I guess it's
Yeah,
in like November or something. I got to get the details.
yeah. You gotta let me know. I'll be down there.
Awesome. Well, Sachin, thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep Canada great. And thank you again for shedding so much light on so many different things. And God bless you.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you too.
Cheers.